Hello, this is Kali, J.N.S, and today we are covering goddess iconography, but in particular we are focusing on the pantheon mythology of the East to learn more about the goddess Kali. So the goddess Kali emerged in East Indian belief systems around 1000 BCE. She is first mentioned in the text Rig Veda. So this book is a Hindu text. It is around 6,000 years old, and many scholars believe it to be the oldest text in existence. Kali is also mentioned in the text, the Devi Mahatmya, and that dates around 300 to 600 BCE. And the Devi Mahatmya means glory of the goddess. And this is a philosophy text describing the goddess as the supreme power and creator of the universe. So many of the things that we're going to learn about will come from this text. So within the Devi Mahatmya, the goddess as the supreme power and creator of the universe is described as a concept called Shakti. And Shakti is thought to be the symbol for the feminine generative power of creation. Shakti is personified as a goddess, and the counterpart to Shakti is called Shiva, which represents the divine masculine principle. So in regards to Shakti, it is thought to be the power of creation that gives birth, as well as the sheer force of nature in electromagnetism, which gives rise to the divine masculine. So as Shakti relates to Kali, she is believed to be the embodiment of that feminine power. So now let's discuss the name of Kali. Kali name is derived from the Sanskrit meaning she who is black or she who is death. She also represents time and change. Kali represents the energy before time and space existed and before planet formation. So if you can wrap your mind around a concept before time and space existing, then you can get the essence of when we say Kali means the black one. And even this concept of Kali as a goddess is an analogy to what we call dark matter or dark energy in the universe. So dark energy is thought to exist before planet and star formation, and dark matter is called dark because in physics it does not seemingly interact with the electromagnetic field, which means it does not absorb or emit or reflect electromagnetic radiation, and therefore it is difficult for astrophysicists to detect this energy. Some scientists believe that dark matter is abundant in the universe and plays a major role in the structure and evolution of the universe because current observations of its gravitational effects cannot be explained by the current theories that we have in science unless there is more phenomenon taking place than what can be detected by the naked eye. So here we have this idea of Kali representing the Shakti energy, which is the divine feminine, and it's more of the more power raw aspect of it. And then we have Kali meaning the black one and the destroyer of time. So we have this dark divine feminine energy. And to get you to understand just a little bit more about like this concept of dark matter, just imagine if you were to go outside at night when there is no sun for the day, and you look into the sky, you always are going to see this darkness. You're going to see this universe out there. You will see stars, but imagine if there was no sun and no stars, it will always be that darkness, this dark energy. And so Kali is also called the dark mother and the dark goddess, and the dark mother is an analogy to the universe itself in terms of creating stars, creating planets, and even giving death to planets and stars itself. So now let's describe how Kali looks. In these pictures that you see, she is often portrayed with blue or black skin. She is naked, wearing a Bengali crown, which is painted or gilded. She also has multiple arms with the numbers of 4, 8, 10, 12, or even 18 arms. So each arm usually holds an object, and that can include a sword, a dagger, a trident, a cup, a drum, chakra, lotus bud, whip, noose, bell, and shield. So as you can see in these pictures, we see her with the black skin and the curly hair, and this popular picture of her standing on Shiva, we're going to explain in detail in a bit. So now we will discuss the personality type of Kali and what many devotees say is her role in one's life. So Kali is often portrayed as having a dualistic nature, one in which she is the demon slayer, the ultimate protector against evil, and fierce mother. She is known to keep it straight with no chaser, and while she loves her devotees fiercely, those who come to her want to be fast-tracked in the evolution of their consciousness. So she helps devotees become aware of their shadow self and subconscious mind so that they can master their subconscious mind, which inevitably enables one to create their own reality and bring their manifestations into fruition. So this idea of the subconscious mind and mastering the subconscious mind is actually can be found in analytical psychology and many other school of thoughts. But in analytical psychology, it states that 95% of our behavior is from our subconscious mind, and only 5% is from the conscious. So when we see behavior, we believe it to be a reflection of what is in someone's subconscious mind, and that behavior is going to influence your reality and the ability to manifest one's reality. So in terms of Kali helping her devotees master their subconscious mind, let's say, for example, when we see, someone who has low self-esteem or have issues of self-sabotage, or they have addiction issues, narcissism, jealousy issues, whatever it could be, etc., etc., those are caused by things most likely in the subconscious mind that can be reprogrammed to form new habits. So many of the inauspicious thought forms, which brings about undesirable behaviors, it stems from childhood experiences. It can stem from societal pressures to hide personality traits that society is not going to accept. It could stem from trauma that may not even have anything to do with your childhood, but just through life experiences. It can be repressed emotions and whatnot. So all of those things is what we call the shadow side. So the shadow side is within the subconscious mind, but it's not necessarily synonymous, because within someone's subconscious mind, they can have very positive things that give rise to very positive manifestations. But when it comes to the shadow side and the things that we've repressed or the things we don't face, that is manifesting in undesirable results in one's life, Kali seeks to dismantle that so that one can master their subconscious mind and manifest their reality. And so that they can choose what content enters their mind and transcend, so when they die that they don't necessarily time loop back to the third dimensional realm, which is planet Earth. If you ever heard of this concept called shadow work, like, oh, you must do your shadow work, we all, in order to truly heal, you must face your trauma. That is what Kali calls for. So shadow work just means to transmute pain and trauma to higher consciousness. So once you can evolve your soul, but also so you can have more pleasurable time on this planet while you're here. So Kali provides an alchemical process for her devotees. Kali fast tracks her devotees. So she is known to be more fiery. She's known to take less excuses, to be less merciful, and life lessons in helping one face their shadow side throughout life's ups and downs. She holds the mirror to the ego, which is why many, unfortunately, they fear her when they see her, because when they see these pictures, it looks scary. They see someone that looks pitch black, who looks fierce, who looks bloodthirsty, who has a head in her hand with a sword. So that can be very off-putting to people. But that symbolism, those pictures that you see, those are merely occult reasons. These are occult symbols for very, very deep, high-level concepts for certain individuals to understand. We understand that this energy of this dark matter, or this dark energy, is a very powerful force for creation. We understand that this power can fast track one's alchemy and one's ability to manifest if yielded properly, but it is a serious life path that is not for the lighthearted. So when we see these pictures of Kali, that's all it represents. It's not necessarily to make one frightened. It is to show, okay, are you ready to be courageous and take on that spiritual path? So now we're going to move from the essence of Kali in outer space with the dark energy and dark matter, and we're going to bring it more into the earthly realm. Now we're going into different layers of now we covered the black one. Kali is the black one. Now we're going to cover Kali as death. And as we know, this concept of death, that is nature, you know. Kali and other early female goddesses were known as the expression of nature, and particularly on planet Gaia. We always say Mother Nature because she has a destructive side as much as a benevolent one. She is both creation and destruction. So I'll give you an example of what that means in terms of this earthly realm. We know, you know, how flowers can be so lovely to us, and how, you know, an ocean breeze can be so beautiful, how a sunset can be so beautiful, and whatnot, and even the birthing of mammals or certain species. But also that other aspect of nature is one where it can be completely destructive. Think of an earthquake, or how a tornado could just, you know, swarm through town, or hurricane and monsoon. So we get the sense of it has this duality. It has this nature that is both creative and destructive. And that is what the dark feminine represents. The dark feminine represents more so of that raw energy, and that it also has its duality with contrast to the light feminine. And many call Kali Mahakali or Ma Kali because she is seen as that warm mother figure, but she also has that dark side. She also has that ability to destroy certain aspects of life that do not serve us. So another aspect of Kali as death is that she represents ego death and the cremation ground. So the only thing that we are certain of in life is death. So death and rebirth are huge themes of Kali, because death is not ever seen as a bad thing, you know, on this path, because all phenomenon die, but energy is never destroyed. So planets die, sun die, stars die, plants die, humans die, etc. And then more is rebirthed, or there is a rebirth of some type, even if we can't see it on our frequency level. So when it comes to devotees, one can expect to experience multiple ego deaths and be reborn again in consciousness with a new perspective in the world. That is the alchemical transformation and transmutation that we were talking about. So many devotees caution against working with Kali unless you are ready to face your shadow side and evolve your soul. It is a very raw energy that can consume a person, because many can use that force, this force of dark energy rather, to manifest things. But it can be arduous in terms of the life lessons you will be taught, in terms of this discipline and restriction that is required to even work with that type of energy. Now I want to explain some of the benefits, though, that her devotees say. So one of the benefits of Kali is extreme protection. She's very protective. She's also known to provide feelings of warmth when her devotees get really scared or when they feel down. She provides a wealth of wisdom. So one of the benefits is, you may notice, devotees of Kali have different outlooks on life in terms of concepts of death and concepts of duality, concepts of morality, very high level ways of looking at the world. And another benefit is self-acceptance and mastery of the subconscious mind. Those are very huge ones. And once you master the subconscious mind, you do have the ability for greater manifestation. And the next benefit is accountability for one's actions. And that ability to be accountable really fast tracks you in terms of your soul and consciousness, because you have this ability to be reflective. You can introspect on your actions, and it brings about self-awareness. So that's all accountability does. And when one is really ready to face their shadow side and be accountable for their shit, you're going to evolve on levels that will help you reach a high level of self-awareness. And that will actually render the world a great service when someone is self-aware, believe it or not. So now I want to explain the Kali picture with her standing over Shiva, because this is a very extremely popular depiction. It's on statues, it's on artwork. Like if you were to Google Kali, the goddess, you're going to see her standing on this male who people presume is dead, and he's not dead. And there's many misconceptions because you see her with a head in her arm. There's lots of stigma around Kali by Western powers because, you know, they could not fathom seeing women as goddesses in a religion. This was very strange to Western colonizers. So when they saw Kali with her tongue out standing on top of Shiva, they demonized it, they sexualized her, they projected very strange concepts onto her, you know, saying that she's a man-eater and whatnot, and even going too far as to say she's the first feminist, when such concepts were not even in existence at those times. And she's none of those things. And as far as being a symbol of the dark energy in the universe and the divine dark feminine, this was a strange concept to colonizers when they come in contact and see this goddess Kali, because those societies are more patriarchal. But then they don't understand how many cultures can use mythology to explain cosmic phenomenon. So a lot of when you look through a lot of pantheons, you'll see that these stories are just mere analogies to describe, say, a hard concept like physics or like chemistry. That's pretty much what we have here. And then there's energy that comes along with that is very spiritual as well. So let's review the story of Shiva and Kali. And it's a very deep story as to why this pose came to be that you see on your screen with her standing on Shiva. And the story appears in the verse of the Mahabharata, which is also in the Devi Mahatmya. And it is a legend about Kali slaying the demon Raktabija. So I actually detailed this story in one of my latest books called The Law of Gender. So I'm actually just going to read verbatim because I am referencing that story from the Devi Mahatmya. And then we're going to break down what that analogy means. So we're going to just cover the objective story, and then we'll break down that analogy. So here we go. According to the Devi Mahatmya text, the demon Raktabija was destructive to the earth and its inhabitants. Lord Brahma granted him the power to duplicate himself whenever someone tried to draw his blood or kill him. So he was given this special boon, what they call it. It's called a boon. So this power made Raktabija uncontrollable. So out of desperation, many of the gods did not know what to do to kill and get rid of Raktabija, because Lord Brahma gives him this power. So they summon the Shakti energy, which is the feminine energy, to rid the world of this demon. The first aspect of Shakti is called the goddess Durga. The goddess Durga was delighted to kill Raktabija because she thought it would be easy, since she was always victorious against enemies of the human race. And Durga rode into battle on a tiger and charged at Raktabija. But he multiplied every time she drew his blood, resulting in thousands of demons, like these clones or replications. So Durga became so infuriated that an archetype emerged from her third eye in the new goddess form of Kali, the black one. The whole universe shook as time and space froze. Kali emerged from Durga naked except for a covering of tiger skin. Her skin was of the deepest black and her hair curly. She was armed with a skull-topped staff and the sword of justice. Her raw power was terrifying, and the third eye flaming from her forehead eradicated delusion, hatred, and greed from anyone who looked at it. She made contact with the demon Rakthabija and screamed. Many clones of Rakthabija immediately fell dead at Kali's feet. She reached out with her claw-like hands and shoveled some of the remaining demons into her gaping mouth. The rest turned away in fear of this ferocious goddess, and the skies were filled with the sound of her shrieking laughter. However, Kali did not stop there. She stretched out her bright red tongue and swallowed all of the elephants and their riders as they tried to run. The horse-drawn chariots disappeared into the abyss of the dark goddess. With Rakthabija's duplicates destroyed, Kali faced off with the original Rakthabija. She punctured his side with her teeth, and Rakthabija's life energy started to leave his body. He was so weak at this point that he could not make any more duplicates. Kali lifted him up in the air so she could more easily drain the blood from his body. After her victory, Kali continued to crave blood and continued dancing wildly, destroying anything in her path. Nothing could stop her, and the other gods realized that the world and universe would collapse if she did not stop. The gods begged her husband Shiva to intervene and calm Kali down. Shiva called out to Kali to try to calm her, but she did not hear him. He realized that the only way to get her to relax was to prostrate himself beneath her. As Shiva laid under her, she continued to crave blood, but she realized that her husband was lying beneath her, and after a few moments, he quickly brought Kali out of her trance, and they both provided stability to the world again. While Kali saved the world from destruction, Shiva was also needed to balance the goddess' rage to prevent the universe from complete collapse. So that is the story in the Devi Mahatmya, and now we're going to cover the allegory. In this picture that you see with Kali standing over Shiva is an allegory to the divine feminine and the divine masculine principles. So now we're going to just uncover that allegory. So we're going to go a little bit deep here. So I'll continue reading. So I detailed the story of Kali and Shiva because it is an allegory of the dynamics between the feminine and masculine principles. This symbolic story is a segue into discussing what the law of gender means. To break down the parable of Kali and Shiva, let us discuss what elements each deity represents. The goddess Kali represents the fierce form of feminine energy, also known as Shakti in Eastern traditions. When Durga manifested as Kali, it was out of explosive rage to restore balance on planet Earth by destroying the demon Rakthabija. Rakthabija represents the state of becoming disenfranchised from heaven or removed from higher consciousness or source energy. Kali, the destroyer of ego, greed, and delusion, was summoned to rid the earth of this demon who was spreading lower dimensional frequency and sought to populate the world with other lower vibrational entities. Kali represents the impermanent nature of the universe, meaning all elements that constantly change. To understand this concept better, think of the phrase, the only thing that is constant in life is change, death, and rebirth. Kali in Sanskrit means time in the black one, which we covered earlier in the video. Kali's energy is uncontrollable and has the power to create and destroy the universes and life itself. This energy is present in the divine feminine. It manifests itself as Mother Nature, whether it's an earthquake, a volcano, a hurricane, a river, trees, or flowers. It is creative, receptive, loyal, and fiercely destructive when threatened. After Kali defeated Rakthabija, she continued to crave blood and became drunk. She would have inadvertently destroyed the planet if not for an equal and opposite force to balance her out, hence the role of Shiva, her husband. This part of the story is an esoteric message of how Kali is dynamic in layers of that energy. While on the other hand, she governs the principles of justice, rebirth, and reception and creativity, she is equally preoccupied with time, death, and the destruction of egos, even if it means destroying universes itself. Kali is depicted as dancing on Shiva to illustrate the interaction she has with him. Shiva represents the silent, permanent, all-pervading force. Kali creates and destroys, and Shiva provides destruction for her to do this. Some cultures consider Kali and Shiva to be the yin and yang of creation. Shiva, her counterpart, exists to complement her energy, and together they represent the complete embodiment of universal consciousness. Shiva was alerted that he needed to go down to earth to stop Kali from destroying it. He realized that the only way to balance the energy was for him to prostrate himself on the ground between her legs, and then she sticks out her tongue and becomes calm again. Shiva was able to balance Kali because he represents the permanent internal aspect of universal consciousness. The permanent nature of Shiva means all that is fixed and all that would ever be. It is complementary to Kali's impermanent nature, all that is in a constant state of change and rebirth. Shiva is often depicted as spending years meditating unperturbed. While Shiva has the power to create and destroy universes, his energy is more tempered, passive, and relaxed. It is stated that Shiva's calmness is because he uses opium, and is also called Boli Shankar, which means one who is oblivious of the world. The story is a powerful metaphor to explain the energies necessary to create consciousness in the universe and on the microcosmic level between women and men. Further credence of how this story represents the feminine and masculine principle is the widespread belief that Shiva Linga, which is the symbol for Lord Shiva, represents the phallus, which is the masculine generative power in nature. The image of Kali standing on Shiva symbolizes having total mastery over the process of life. Now, there are two variations of this story. The first version is less known today, and it states that Shiva lay beneath Kali and penetrated her in sexual intercourse. Now, this version is primarily frowned upon in today's time because of this shame around sexuality, but also not wanting to equate or to even think that goddess or god can have sex, or even to even pontificate on their sexual relations. But back in the day, that was actually, some thousands of years ago, it was not so uncommon to show gods having sex, and you can see this throughout tantric statues that are thousands of years old all throughout the East and the West. Now, the current version that you'll see in pictures is this, where you see her just standing on him. But if you get your hands on some esoteric of what the original pictures look like, you'll see something quite different outside of her just standing on top of Shiva. We'll just say that. But in the new versions, Shiva just simply lay beneath her. Now, the original tale illustrates the union between the feminine and masculine energy to create life through sexual intercourse and to balance the universe's nature. Now, the original story makes more sense from my perspective because it details the fusion of feminine and masculine energy through sex. When Kali, which is the feminine energy, performs her role, the universe structure is always impermanent. It's always dynamic and changing. When Shiva is performing his role, the structure of the universe is permanent, which means static. When they perform together, the structure of the universe is in balance. The story of Shiva and Kali is a great allegory to see how the feminine and masculine play out on the grand scale of universal consciousness. It is also an allegory for the Shakti school of thought. Remember, we talked about Shakti earlier, which means glory of the goddess with female power. That is in the Devi Mahatmya text. And Shakti comes from the Devanagari language, which is an ancient Brahmi script used in the Indian subcontinent. It was developed in the 1st to the 4th century CE, and it was in regular use by the 7th century CE. Shakti is defined as feminine because it is responsible for birth, just as mothers are responsible for birthing life. While Shakti is also viewed as an auspicious energy source, it can be destructive. So I just wanted to cover some more information about the Shakti school of thought because I wanted to give you more context of Shakti, because Shaktiism is actually a whole subsect of, East traditions where there are millions of people dedicated to this lifestyle. It's called Shaktiism. And there's also one called Shivaism as well for Shiva. So you can, research those things and you can see like, oh, okay, so people are really, taking these philosophies serious. But I want to read just two more things from you. One verse from the Devi Mahatmya text, which was found in around 400 CE. And from this text, it says, by you, this universe is born. By you, this world is created. O goddess, by you, it is protected. And here's another verse from the Shakti Sangama Tantra text, and it says, woman is the creator of the universe. The universe is her form. Woman is the foundation of the world. She's the true form of the body. So that is interesting because we're seeing these thoughts. This is not the only pantheon that covers this sort of mythology. So that is the story of Kali and Shiva. And now we're going to review the Kali yantra. So in this symbol right here that you see on your screen, that is the Kali yantra. Now let's explain what yantra means. Yantra just means machine or contraption. So this is a geometrical diagram, as you can see. And this is mainly from the tantric traditions of the East religions. And yantras are pretty much used for the worship of deities, whether that be in temples or in the home. They are used in meditations. They can be used for occult purposes within tantric texts and even astrology. Now, certain concepts we will not be diving deeply into, but being that this is a symbol for Kali, I think it is very important that we discuss this symbol. So in the Kali yantra that you see, we see this outer part of the symbol, which represents the world with its four directions. It can also represent the four winds and the four primal rivers. The two circles symbolizes birth and death. The petals inside symbolize the lotus blossom, the 8 chakras, and Kali as a nurturer. The dark around the triangle represents or symbolizes Kali as the destroyer. So now we see this triangle, and there's 5 layers of the triangle, and that represents the 5 sheaths of the human condition. So what does sheath mean? The 5 sheaths just means 5 layers of a subtle body that composes one personality. And this is described in a classic called the Taittiriya Upanishad. So this is another text. So before we move on with explaining some of the other aspects of the Kali yantra, I do want to break down briefly what these 5 subtle bodies or these 5 sheaths mean, so that you can understand that this Kali yantra is deeper than just, some symbol that you see. So human beings consist of a material body, built from the food you eat. So when you see your meat suit that you have on you right now, this is your physical body. That is one layer of consciousness or one layer of the sheath. But inside, here's another ethereal or subtle body, which is called life force. This is your life energy. And it fills the physical body and it takes its shape. And those who treat that vital force as divine will have longevity, because this is the source that gives rise to your meat suit or your body. Now within that life force, that vital force, is yet another layer of consciousness, which is thought to be one of thought energy, also the emotional body. So it fills the 2 denser bodies and it has the same shape. And those who can understand how to control the mental body are no longer afflicted by fear. But yet, and still we have one other layer, and that is composed of the wisdom intellect body. And it permeates the 3 denser bodies and assumes once again the same form. And those who establish their awareness at that level of wisdom and intellect from the soul, from the life force energy and from the body, they free themselves from unhealthy thoughts and actions, and they develop the self-control necessary to achieve goals. And the 5th body is even more subtle. That is composed of what we call bliss or pure joy. Now that pervades the other bodies and it is experienced as delight. So that is this triangle that you see in those layers. That is what that represents. The physical sheath, the life force sheath, the emotional sheath, the wisdom sheath, and then the bliss sheath. Now we see this downward facing triangle. that symbolizes the yoni, which signifies the mother goddess. That is the female regenerative power. And the point in the middle of the triangle is the bindu, which symbolizes new life and new birth. So that is the Kali yantra. So it has a deep occult meaning beyond just, what you see, this symbol. And this is used in Kali Tantra. So now we're going to discuss another subsect of Kali, because you may see people connotate Kali to this erotic nature. So I do think it's worthwhile to explain a bit what that means, because Kali is used in tantric cults. They are evolved around her, where eroticism is primarily a way of confronting one's shadow. Now again, this is not the whole pantheon. This is a subsect called Kali Tantra. So, according to the Kali Upanishads, there's this belief that in your behavior, do the opposite of what the norm dictates, but remain in consciousness. So that is the essence of Tantra. And Kali, representing this absolute reality, manifested as a woman who is aware of her sexuality. She frees her practitioners, or those who are into this Tantra form of lifestyle. She frees them from all desire except for union with the divine. So this can be seen as an aspect of the left-hand path when we're talking about do the opposite to what the norm dictates, but remain in consciousness. So in terms of, say, the repression of sexuality, or the way society sets up the way women should view their sexuality, or even the way a man should, it's like, hey, to experience certain levels of consciousness, do the opposite of what would be considered the norm, but remain in awareness. Be aware of your actions, be aware of what you're influencing, who you're affecting with your actions. So you're not really supposed to be out here just doing some wicked stuff, but pretty much, explore your deepest desires, explore the aspects of your shadow that you have been repressing. And it is believed that one can do that through sex, that you can experience sexuality and understand the essence of God. And while some forms of Tantra, you're removing this pleasure aspect to increase your consciousness, and another sect of Tantra, because duality, it's not just one or these false dichotomies. This is both and a lot of times with these concepts. But in some forms of Tantra, you can use sex to have that ecstasy moment and to experience God as pleasure as well on a continuum of consciousness. So it's based on what people get into, because these are all school of thought. So this is very esoteric information that is not the aim for the video, but I wanted to mention it because Kali also plays a huge role in Tantra. We're covering the goddess Kali in its totality. So now next, I want to explain how Kali is associated with the planet Saturn, because you're going to see, if you do your research, or maybe if you're looking up stuff, you may see Saturn come up. So it's like, well, what do that have to do with anything? So Kali, as we know, is associated with time and discipline, and this karma, understanding the shadow side, understanding this process of alchemy, going through the dark to get through the light. And believe it or not, Saturn is also concerned with many of those things. Now back in the day, before the age of Pisces, so we're talking about possibly 2,000 years ago, Saturn was associated, many of these planets were associated with goddesses. Saturn was also one. Saturn is looked at as the mother crone, the crone mother. And Saturn is also known to have that energy of this discipline of time, destabilizing time and giving rise to time of death. So it's a very heavy energy. So Saturn is the planet represented by Kali, which makes sense because, again, she is Mother Time, Black One. In later religions, we see the planet Saturn become Kronos. And that was most widely known with Greco-Roman religion, pre-Roman Catholic and Christian periods. And remember, Kronos was a Titan, so this harkens back to, an older species that predates the Greek gods who conquered them. And in terms of the new symbols of Saturn, being switched from having these goddess connotations, you can see that take place in some of the Masonic artwork of the zodiac, and also can be found in Freemasonic symbolism, which is also called alchemy. So when you look at this picture that you see, which is representative of planets, they have other symbols around them. Now, this water bearer that you see is, looking like this man. And the reason why that is the water bearer is because Aquarius is thought to be governed by Saturn in astrology. So Aquarius obviously shows the water bearer always pouring water out of his vase over to Pisces in both the old Greek and Hindu zodiacs. But what's really interesting, and this is something you can study yourself, is that the switch to having this male carry the water bearer is strange in ancient cultures, because women were the ones that traditionally fetched the water and carried the water. This can be found in various cultures where you see the women and the girls carrying very heavy clay pots of water on their heads. So we see that switch from Saturn being represented as the crone mother, or the female that bears the water of consciousness from the subconscious to the conscious, to we see it just representing Kronos, the Capricorn or Baphomet, and the rest of the water bearer, it becomes male. But back in those days, males never carried the water. That's just something that you can research. So to a lot of us that really gets deep into studying this stuff, we do realize and we do see that constant association with Saturn, with the crone mother, Saturn with Kali, Saturn with the dark divine feminine. So I do think that is an important concept, because in addition to Aquarius being representative of Saturn's, Capricorn is too. So there's some deep stuff going on with that. But that briefly just discusses why you see Kali associated with Saturn. So now we're going to explain how Kali relates to the red ash mark on the head of people, and also on like Hindu statues, because that red dot, it represents obviously the third eye, but beyond that, it represents this sort of electricity, this electromagnetism that symbolizes the blood, the life force in the blood, which is governed by the laws of electromagnetism. But to get that activated, we have this concept of activating this third eye, where this dot resides. That includes the spinal chakra electricity. This is also called like a serpent energy that is said to rise up through the spine. This is also known as Kundalini energy. And this can be done through meditation and also creative energy known as sexual energy. So there we see there's connection between the Kali Tantra to, this Kundalini energy and activating the third eye. In certain school of thoughts, you do see this train of thought of rising your Kundalini energy, not just from meditation, but also you can do it through sexuality. You can honestly even do it through psychedelics, but that is not something that I would ever recommend. But it is a thing. So I wanted to explain, like, okay, why does she have that dot on her head? And this is representative of the electromagnetism force from becoming dark energy to going through various layers of consciousness that forms not only universes but solar systems, planets, life forms, and even deeper matters. And it's a multi-layer. Just think of an onion with all of these layers of the goddess Kali, because we took it from the dark energy before planet and space and time formation. So that covers the aspect of the red dot. So that is the complete overview into the goddess Kali. She is the Shakti raw dark goddess. And And this energy can be found in women. It is very powerful energy. And unfortunately, within the last 2,000 years, we see this repression and this suppression of the dark divine feminine, of women not really knowing how to embrace that energy, because due to patriarchy and Abrahamic religions, it has been told that, you know, the women have to submit, or the women must play down the role, or that this energy is inherently inferior to the divine masculine. When anything can be further from the truth. You can find this in nature. You can determine this in science, whether it's evolutionary biology. It does not even has to be Western science. This is just, if you study nature enough, this will become common sense. Like, all of the indigenous inhabitants of this planet understood these concepts very well. This is not just this pantheon. It is in Africa, it is in the Americas, it is everywhere. So this idea of this divine feminine giving rise to divine masculine through the laws of electromagnetism, it can be found and is a real thing, including in ancient Abrahamic texts. So a lot of the stuff that we see out now, there are versions. So you have the King James version and whatnot, and those unfortunately have things redacted out of them, or stuff just removed. So for instance, the story of Lilith and Adam and Eve, as we know, God created Lilith first, and then Adam. You know, there's been a concerted effort from the brotherhood and certain priesthoods to usher in the last 2,000 years of the age of Pisces. So it's been this a very patriarchal age. But what's interesting for the last 2,000 years is it's been that way. But prior to, many melanated cultures and tribes do not even have a history of these concepts. These concepts that we've gotten from Abrahamic religions are not found in many of our own indigenous cultures. In fact, it is quite the opposite. So unfortunately, the goddess Kali and all of these goddesses are kind of not mainstream, and perhaps that's a good thing. I'm not sure, but what I do know that is that women who don't understand those concepts, and particularly you melanated women, when they do not understand the power of dark energy and how it is represented in them for creation and rebirth and raw power, then, you know, you get a bunch of confusion, you get a lot of drama and angst even within the relationships between men and women, because we are not understanding the concepts of the divine feminine and divine masculine outside of religious texts. And you do not need the religious text to explain these concepts that I'm talking about. All you have to do is just go out in nature and observe your animals. If you observe your animals, you do not need any of these things. But we're using these allegories and analogies to explain high-level concepts such as physics and chemistry and biology. A lot of times when you tell a story, you know, back in those days, this was oral history, and you could tell a story and give it out to the public, but then you have a priestesshood or a priesthood that get to get more of the inside information of what those things even mean. So the public may just think, oh, Kali and Shiva, you know, rock the bija, and oh, she's standing on top of, but then, you know, those who get study more of that esoteric information or get involved in the occult, they have a more broader understanding of what those concepts mean. But there has been a concerted effort to bury a lot of this information, and I don't want to push dogma. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just explaining certain concepts to switch over from the last 2,000 years. But even if you don't need any dogma to understand nature, so you could just go outside, observe your precious animals wherever you're at, and particularly some of the animals that we revere. And if you can't get outside, or, you know, and see these animals in their natural habitat, then, you know, they have this, you can go on the YouTube and they have, you know, the night cameras out all in the nature and stuff, where you can observe the animals with the cameras that's already, you know, and because you want to make sure you get them in the natural habitat and not like in captivity and shit. But that's another way to also understand the concepts that I'm talking about in terms of electromagnetism and how the divine feminine gives rise to the divine masculine. These are ancient concepts. It is nothing new. In fact, you melanated people always knew these things, and have been allowed, and have also not just been allowed, but have also willingly wanted to try other things out, because presumably being tired of one system or wanting to benefit from another system. So that's a discussion for another day. But I want to bring home in terms of when a woman embraces that dark feminine energy, and even men, that's inside of us, because all of us have this masculine and feminine dichotomy within us as well. Just, we tap into more the feminine essence or more the masculine. But when you do tap into the dark divine feminine, that's where you can access incredible amounts of creative energy. You can manifest faster, because that dark energy is the space that is not detected. That's how you can quantum leap. You put yourself in that moment, and you can manifest faster if you work with the divine dark feminine energy, because you're going to master your subconscious mind, because you're facing your shadow. Those type of women that embrace that energy, they become very comfortable in their skin. They can intelligently and intuitively express themselves, and even sexually. And also, when a woman is in tune with the dark feminine, she embraces that shadow side. She does not shun her mercenary side. She embraces strategy. She embraces understanding esoteric knowledge as well. She gives birth to witty ideas, inventions, creations, and can destroy that what is destructive to nature in balance. That is the power that resides when we understand as humans that dark energy, that dark goddess energy. So when we say Kali helps devotees face their shadow side for healing, it is from the saying that you cannot fully heal until you face your trauma. So this is what this path is about. It's just a path of alchemy, but it also it's a double entendre. I don't even know if it's double. I mean, it's probably quadruple, because there's multiple layers. Like, here you get to understand, okay, here is the cosmos, this concept of dark energy and dark matter. Here we get to understand how this concept of this dark energy is inherently feminine and gives rise to the masculine energy. Now we see how this reduces from the cosmic level to the microcosmic level on planet Earth, between the masculine and the divine feminine, being able to make love with one another and produce a baby, another creation of consciousness with its own autonomy. So this is, here we seeing the microcosmic and the macrocosmic intertwine with one another. Then in another level, we see where we can use this concept of the dark energy and the Kali energy to transmute consciousness from a lower inferior level to a higher level of alchemy. So when one can master their subconscious mind. So there's multiple levels of how deep this stuff is, and then one can do that through sexuality, through meditation, through devotion, which is Shaktiism, or through sex, which is the Kali Tantra. So there's a different paths here that we see, so there are different, layers that we see, like that onion that I was discussing earlier. So once you face the shadow side, it can heal properly, and you just integrate them into your subconscious mind and your conscious mind. So you're integrating the two so that your behavior reflects that which you want to desire. Kali does not allow one to sweep trauma under the rug and act like it didn't happen or it doesn't exist. One can do that, but if you're a devotee, you're going to see that pressure get put on you, or these revelations, or these sudden epiphanies. Think of the tarot, the tower. Think of that energy, the tower, where it's like, oh shoot, like all of these things are falling down, all of these things are coming, but then now I'm getting revelation out of this. I'm getting a moment of enlightenment through that destruction of the ego death. And Kali also encourages us to be compassionate and aware of our dark side, to embrace it, but also to master it as well. So becoming aware of that dark femininity is just simply the unconscious part of us wanting to become conscious. It is the idea of wisdom through the experiences that you learn, wanting to be rebirthed rather than repressed. She asks you to not judge your emotions, but to validate your emotions. So when it comes to women, we're told that these emotions are irrational, or if a man is being emotional, he's told you're acting like a woman, you're being feminine, you're acting like a bitch, and all this stuff. Okay, what is wrong with emotions? Because as we know, when we always talk about, oh, the law of attraction and stuff. That's beyond just conscious thought. You have to vibrationally feel your way to what you want, and you have to be in the emotions of that what you desire, as if it is already there. Then you get there. So there is nothing wrong with emotions. They can be misdirected. There can be some, you do have to have some intellect or some logic there. I'm not saying just go on this emotional rampage, because everything has its light and dark side, including just extreme analytical knowledge. So embrace that idea of understanding the subconscious. It is a path of that can be somewhat arduous, because you're kind of like facing your shit all the time, and sometimes you want that escapism, so you may kind of dabble into something to distract you a bit. But on that path with Kali, you are going to be required to face the shadow side. Kali is multifaceted energy, but she is the dark divine feminine, and that sums up the goddess. So I do want to thank you for watching this video. I do want to ask that you subscribe to the channel, because we're going to do a lot more content about the goddess iconography. So again, thanks for watching. I love y'all, and I'm going to talk to y'all later. Bye.